Alright, Shalom, Shalom. It's your brother Issachar coming back at you with another lesson. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kwakwadai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect and the 144,000 scattered across the four corners of the earth. Shalom to you. Alright, in today's lesson, we're going to go into how these Edomites are nervous. Okay, how these Edomites are desperate. And remember, Akima Akwas, Esau, the so-called white man, he's on the ropes. He's on the ropes. You know, just a few more, few more hits, a little here, a little there, and this man's going down. You know, Esau's on the ropes. Esau's on the ropes, baby. You know. So we're gonna go into this lesson to show the hopeful elect out there what the Lord says. Okay, what the Lord is telling us by the scriptures. All right, that this man Esau is that he's at his end. Okay, and also how the 144,000 will receive spiritual power, and the 144,000, the angels, and also Yahweh Shai are gonna hunt these all these Edomites and heathens down wherever they're hiding. These mountains, these underground cities, their space stations. You know, yeah. This is what we're gonna go into. You know, because this is. It's not much longer, before this happens. Oh yeah. Alright, Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants, the habiters of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Therefore rejoice. Okay, from the top. So rejoice. Alright, this is what the Lord's telling us. Okay? Alright, the Lord's saying to rejoice, because we're in that time. We've been in captivity for thousands of years. Okay, the northern kingdom, we've been in captivity since 724 BC. All right, after the Assyrians took us down, and our king was King Hoshea. All right, that was the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom got taken down 70 AD. All right, by the Romans underneath Titus, and the last king we had was King Zedekiah. All right, but just look at those dates. 724 BC and 70 AD. It's been thousands of years since we've been in captivity. You see, but that's another reason why our enemies, they think that, oh well, we've been doing this for a long time, doing this to them for a long time. Nothing's gonna happen to us. So this is why these heathens feel entitled. Like, well, we've been ruling for so long, and the Lord hasn't done nothing. This is why they feel like that, because when you do something for so long and nothing happens to you, that increases their pride, So that's why Esau's like, well, we've been doing it for so long, and we've been treating them like this and treating them like that, That's the thing, all right? And nothing hasn't happened, right? Right. So that is, it only increases the pride of our enemies. But that's a good thing, because the Lord wants a good fight, and it's better when our enemies are proud and puffed up. Why might that be? Does anyone know out there? Okay, why might that be better for our enemies to be proud and puffed up? Because it's gonna hurt that much more when they get that beat down. Yup, yeah, so it's better to because the disappointment, the One sec. The humiliation, you know? The humiliation, the disappointment, you know? Because when you're on the top and you think, oh yeah, I'm proud, you know, who can take me down? Case in point, remember Trump? Okay, remember Trump made that speech a little while ago when he goes, oh yeah, you know, he goes, we're winning, you know, we're winning so much. Remember the president said, hey, you know, he goes, oh yeah, we're winning, you know, because that's how they are, you know, but that's good. That's perfect like that, you know, because when this beatdown comes, you know, because that's, it hurts, it stings, you know, it stings that much more. Oh yeah, you know, you don't want your enemy to be all down and sad. No, you want to be proud and puffed up, you know, like bring it on. That way when they get that beat down, they're like, oh shit, you know, the fuck, you know, the fuck just happened. Like, yep, yeah, you know, the Lord's name is Yahweh Shai, you know, yeah, man. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. Alright? So the earth and the sea, woe meaning destruction. If you're by the rivers, if you're by these oceans, hey, you know, this judgment and destruction is going to go forth. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath. Okay, stop right there. For the devil is come down unto you. Right. Okay, us Israelites, because we're in Jacob's trouble. Alright, the northern and southern kingdom, you guys have seen it by ice, right? Okay. Alright, that's just the beginning stages, and you're only gonna see more and more. Having great wrath, because he's not your friend. He's not our friend. Okay? Psalms 83, that chapter right there, okay? It names the list of our enemies. And Esau, Edom, okay, the self-proclaimed white man, he's our enemy number one. Okay? Alright, King Mashal told us that, okay? He's our number one enemy. Because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Because these devils are afraid. Absolutely. Okay, they're afraid. They are afraid. Let's go to Obadiah. Okay, because he knoweth that he has but a short time. So make no mistake. Although these demons act like, you know, like they're not, you know, like they ignore us. They say, oh yeah, we're dumb, insignificant, whatever. Remember, okay, they know. Okay, they may not tell you that they're afraid, but they're afraid. Why is that? Well, look at where our enemies are spending their money and their energy. Okay, towards underground bunkers. You hear things like survival, doomsday. Okay, that's a spirit. You know how you have Dr. Doom. That dude's cool right there. You know, Dr. Doom. Shoot. Yep. Yeah, it's a spirit. You know, because that's judgment. Doom means judgment. You know. As a spirit, you know. So, you know, you hear doomsday preppers, all that, because what does that mean? You know, I don't care what you say. All right. You know, our enemies by their actions, because whatever you put your money and your energy towards, that's where your heart's at, you know. That's where your mind's at, because you're thinking, okay, you know, like us of the hopeful elect, we're thinking about the kingdom. All right. So we're constantly trying to improve on these scriptures. Pray more, we're trying to fast more, increase on our studies. You know, we're putting our energy and our efforts towards pleasing the Lord, you know, because we want to get out of here. We're trying to make it to the kingdom, right? Okay. So that is, that's where our mind's at, our energy. See, you know, these heathens, all right, the Edomites, their energy and their shekels is going towards these militaries and these underground cities. Why? Because they're trying to survive something that is coming. What is that? Our Lord Yahushua, who's coming in a gigantic spaceship. that is bigger than the earth. And not just Yahushai, Michael, and all the other angels. Okay, the Lord's going to empty out the heavens. And there's more angels than there is you mere mortals. Remember, this is just one planet. Okay, remember, there's so many planets out there, galaxies, other realms. Alright? Yep. Oh yeah. Okay, the so-called UFOs, the so-called UAPs, the Chariots of Israel are gonna completely cover the skies. Oh yeah. Obadiah chapter 1 verse 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Alright, so this is what the Edomites are in trouble. Shame shall cover thee. Right. And thou shalt be cut off forever. Because they are going to be exterminated. Absolutely. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 16 verse 16. Behold, I will send for many fishers. This is what's happening right now, okay? The prophets. Okay, they are prophesying. Prophecy means what? Okay, pro means before, she means to tell. Okay, so the Lord, that right there in itself, alright, that right there in itself, just the fact that the Lord sent out his Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, sent out his true prophets, not you sellouts that took the check or the bag, not you sellouts that under a 501c3 charter. Okay, the true prophets, alright, that is mercy right there, because the true prophets are on the front line, you know. It don't matter the flavor of the week. It don't matter if they're broke. It don't matter if they went to jail, came out of jail. Okay, you know, meaning if it don't matter what they go through, the prophets are gonna prophesy. Remember Peter? Okay, when he went to jail, okay, the angels got him out. Okay, remember that. And the next day, Peter was prophesying. The very next day, you know, he wasn't all shook at his house, like all scared, you know, like, oh man, I'm not gonna do this no more. You know, they threw me in jail. He wasn't like, oh nah. He was out there the very next day. You know? Yeah, he was out there the very next day. He was out there. See? You know? He didn't just get released. Well, he got released by the angels. Alright, that's another story for you guys to read out there. Okay, the angels got Peter out of jail. Okay? So that's another testimony to show you that, alright, that those who believe in the Lord, were they confounded? Look at the times of old. Okay, look at Daniel in the lion's den, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Samson, when he was in trouble, Moses, when they came to the Red Sea. Okay, Moses, he didn't even know, okay? He didn't even know that the Lord was going to open up the north of the Red Sea, which is the Gulf of Suez. Okay, he didn't even know that. Okay, no one knew, nobody knew. But that just shows how the Lord gets down. Okay, the Lord likes drama, but even through salvation, you're still going to be tested, because we were still being tested. You know, all the way to that time, because we thought, you know, the Israelites, you know, we thought, oh man, you know, hey, that's damn, you know, hey, the Lord got us this far, but now what? You know, see. So we had to just maintain, and hey, the Lord's gonna get us through, you know. But Moses didn't know. Nobody knew. Okay, that's how it is right now. Okay, Saint Matthew. Nobody knows the time. Okay, that's just the Lord, because the Lord's out there like that. The Lord's exciting, you know. Yeah, you know. That way, hey, it's exciting, you know. But also it proves, because who's gonna listen to the Lord? Just because you run into a dead end, are you gonna right away just curse out the Lord and say, I knew it, I did all this for nothing? Or are you gonna hold it down and believe? Remember, Yahushua told them before he did the miracles, he goes, because he already had the power, he don't gotta prove nothing to nobody, but it's do you believe that he can do it? See, that's the point here. See, you know. So what happened? All right, Moses didn't know. All right, you know, Aaron, no one didn't know. See? All right, but what happened? The Lord opened up the Gulf of Suez, the north of the Red Sea. Okay, it's connected to the Red Sea. It's just at the top of the Red Sea. it forks off. It goes to the left and it goes to the right. So the top left of the Red Sea, it's called the Gulf of Suez. Right there, that's like, you know how you have like a pin drop nowadays? You know, you say, hey, well, send me a pin drop, a location. That's the location right there. It's the, when the, this is for those of you, you newcomers, okay, when the Red Sea, you gotta look at it on the map, okay, the very north, all right, it forks off, it goes to the right and it goes to the left, all right, so to the left, all right, it, you know, it gets narrow, but it's called the Gulf of Suez, okay, and that's where we, this is where we cross, yes, okay, this is where we cross, right there, absolutely, all right. So this is why no man knoweth the hour when the Son of Man. So we know when it's close, but we don't know exactly. But this is why, like, these clowns out there, okay, these false prophets that say, hey, the Lord's gonna arrive on June 5th, you know, he's a bug out. Okay, the scriptures say, Saint Matthew, no man knoweth the time, okay, or the day, you know. I mean, we know the season, we know that we're close. But, you know, the actual, like, okay, if someone says, hey, the Lord's going to come June 5th at 3 p.m. No. Okay, St. Matthew says no. All right, that's not what the scriptures say. Is that scriptural? No. So remember that, okay? How to identify a false prophet? Are they calling on the names? And are they saying, are they just speaking their opinion? Are they going according to what their parents just told them? Are they going according to what the community says? You know, are they applying the scriptures? You know, see, you know, that's the thing. So right there, you know, but that's what makes it exciting, because we know that we're close, but we don't know exactly, you know, but that's our hope, you know. Yeah, just like the elect don't know that they're the hopeful elect. Okay, this is why we're prisoners of hope. Okay, you know, because we all committed sins unto death, and we all have fell short. But the thing is, you know, so this is why the Lord don't tell you also that, hey, you're the hopeful elect, because it just, you know, that keeps, you know, that keeps that excitement there. Also, it keeps you in that fight, you know. That way you don't get too comfortable. You're like, hey, man, you know, you have that fear there, you know. But, you know, in a good way, you know, like, hey, man, you know, I better get myself right, you know, not just, oh, yeah, I'm part of the hopeful elect, I got it. You know, fuck the rest of you. Nah, okay? That way, you know, you stay humble, you know, meek, you know, but encouraged at the same time. You know, you're not just, you know, we're not just all out here down and out. We're excited, baby. You know, because we're seeing the destruction of our enemies. Look at the 2/3 going on YouTube crying because what? Esau and Moab making fun of them. Yo, you know, fuck Esau and Moab. Excuse my Italian. You know? These heathens are retarded, you know, straight up. Like Tazadak said, hey, just shut your mouth, you know, because you don't believe in the Lord, you know. So the Lord, remember, the Lord's coming for you 2/3, you know, but it's a damn shame because you're over here making a video crying, you know, about the heathen. Hell, with the, you kidding me? Esau, a cave dweller, and Moab, you know, making fun of you at these jobs. Who gives a damn? You kidding me? You know, Moab and Edom, you know, they're retarded. You know, our enemies are nothing. But this is why you have to be built up in the faith. You know, make a video all crying and stuff. You know, why? Because I'm heathen. You know, come on. You know, this is why our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Okay, you know, because they're over here because of these retarded heathens said a few, you know, racial slurs. Who gives a damn? You know? That's why with us in the faith, you know, if they say something like that, we'll laugh at them. Because we know that they're going to slavery. See? You know? And we know that Yahweh Shai already got the victory. See that? You know? This is why wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. This word. Because we trust in this word. We know that the heathens ain't nothing. And that the Lord don't care about them, and that they're going to captivity. See, so this is where you gotta grab that strength. All right, from the inner man. Okay, you gotta grab that strength, that faith. reach into your spiritual battery backpack. Okay, grab some of that faith, and apply it. It's not just, oh, I trust in the Lord. Do you? Well, look at that. Taza Doc just made a video a few hours ago. Okay, the elder from Los Angeles GMS camp. Okay, he said, he showed that Northern Kingdom. He was a Jake. Okay, maybe Issachar. He was crying. Because some people at his work were making some comments about ICE. And the nigga started crying. And just, hey, but that just shows right there. Okay, and to make a video about that, that just shows, too. That's another thing. So not only are you gonna cry about it, but you're gonna go on video and show the whole world that you're crying because they said a few words to you. So you're making it even worse. What are you gonna do? Have somebody say a few words to you? Not only are you gonna cry and walk out the job, but you're gonna make a video on that and cry and show the whole world that you're a little pussy, that you're a cherry. Excuse my Italian. See? This is why the Lord, doesn't like a coward. Okay, that's why the Lord says stand up manfully, because it's not, and don't get me wrong, okay? Everybody cries at times. Sometimes you have lost, you lose your wife, your sisters out there. Sometimes you lose your husband. You may lose children. Hey, that hurts. That's different. Okay, but he's crying about something like that. Come on. All right. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 16. Behold, I will send for many fishers, said the Lord, Yahweh B'Ashem Yahushai, the Lord sending out his prophets, and they shall fish them. Okay, so right now, the prophets, how are they fishing for the elect? Only the elect, remember. Okay, not all Israel, because you see the 2/3 crying on YouTube like little cherries. Okay, all right. So, hey, the Lord don't like no coward. How you doing? And then you're on YouTube just showing everybody that you're a coward? Shit, man. You're pretty much, you're showing our enemies, yeah, just come and kill me, I ain't got no backbone. I'm a cherry, and I'm crying to the world that, that just by their words, these dudes break down just by a few words. Damn. No wisdom. Through. Okay? No direction. See? No hope. But that just shows you the difference between the 2/3 and the hopeful elect. Okay? And they shall fish then. So how are the prophets fishing for the hopeful elect? By the word, by teaching this word. Okay? This is why our enemies are afraid. Okay? Because this word is powerful. Okay? If you break it down right. Okay? This is why you need the names. Yahweh and Yahushai. Very powerful. Because Yahushai conquered Satan. Remember, if Yahushai lost, our enemies wouldn't be concerned. They wouldn't even give a damn. Why would they pay agents and YouTube moderators to cut our shows, cut our YouTube channels, give us strikes? You true brothers in the faith out there pushing the word, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what it is, But that shows you right there, because what does that show? Okay, yeah, they got agents. Okay, yeah, all this jazz, that, this and that, etc. But what does that entail? What does that show? That displays that our enemies are scared. Yup. Yes, they are. Because they're putting money into watching the man of the Lord, and they're also putting money into hiding into underground cities. Yup. Because they're nervous. Our enemies are scared. Our enemies are frightened. Ladies and gentlemen, Akim Aqua, remember that. Okay, they are frightened. They are afraid. Make no mistake. Okay, they can say all they want, but what are they putting their money and their energy towards? Okay, hiding out. Okay, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters. Okay? Alright, there we go. Spiritual power, baby. Okay, spiritual power. The Lord is raising up the house of David. Okay, the 144,000. And they're going to have spiritual power. And they shall hunt them from every mountain. Okay? And they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill. Okay? Because they're in the mountains. Okay? They're in the hills. Here we go. Listen up. Okay? Here we go. Okay? Hang on. And, okay? And out of the holes of the rocks. Okay? Why? Because, alright. Let's go. Because they're not in other planets. Okay? They're in the holes of the rocks, meaning because all our enemies are doing are digging a hole, and they're like, all right, we're gonna hide right here. You know, we'll be fine. All they're doing is digging holes in the ground. Sit. You know? Yeah. You know, they may cover them with titanium and concrete, whatever. That don't matter. Remember, the angels and the Lord, they can see through the floor. You know? Remember out there, Akwath, our enemies are retarded. Okay? A lot of you out there are giving them a lot of credit. Remember, okay? All right, they're not gods and they're not intelligent. Okay? You know, the Lord gave them his own, you know, his own wisdom and his own way, you know? But he's not, you know, he's not superior. Okay? He's not a god. Okay, yeah, they may have toys and AI, but these Edomites and heathens are retarded. Okay, they are not nowhere close to even being a god. Okay, all right. So all they're doing is digging a hole in the rock. Okay, all they're doing is digging holes in the ground. Okay, right here, Jeremiah would say that also, because if they were, okay, pay attention. If they were able, okay, if they were able. Okay, if they were able to, leave the planet, they would, you know. Because remember, wouldn't you? All right, let's say this is your kingdom. Okay, this is the way you guys see it. All right, let's just say this was your kingdom, right? And there was a force out there that was so strong. Okay, so strong. All right, remember, because our enemies, this is not the Avengers. Okay, this is not some Hollywood movie where our enemies are all gonna come together and you know, and overtake the Lord. Okay, they are gonna come together to fight the Lord, but they're gonna lose miserably. Revelation chapter 18 tells us that. Okay, 1 hour. These devils got 60 minutes. Okay, this is why we don't care. We don't care who's on Esau's payroll. All right, we may expose him, you know, and say that he's a sellout, but we don't care. We don't follow people, you know, to their house and stuff and make death threats, because we know you're already you're on death row. Okay, because if you're siding with the heathen and you leave the Lord, then you're gonna go down with the heathens and the Edomites. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Okay. So that is where our comfort is, because by knowing and applying the scriptures, okay, this is our comfort. You see? Okay. All right. Let's continue. And I will send for many hunters. So the Lord is gonna send for many hunters, meaning what? The hopeful elect is going to, the hopeful elect is going to receive spiritual power. Spiritual power, absolutely. Okay, and so it's saying, okay, through Jeremiah, the Lord is telling us, and they shall hunt them from every mountain. Okay, so the 144,000, the angels, and the Lord, Yahweh Shai. Okay, and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks. Wait a minute, let's keep going. Let's continue. There's more? But wait, there's more. There's more. You know? For my eyes are upon all their ways, They are not hid from my eyes. They are not hid from my eyes. Okay, they are not hid from my face. Okay, they are not. Let me get that again. For for my eyes are upon all their ways, because the Lord can see you. Okay, the Lord can see you, Esau. You know, you clowns actually, because they actually think, they actually think that the Lord can't see them. They're that retarded. They're that retarded. Some think they know, but a lot of them they think, oh no, they can't see us. Yeah, right. These they have no idea. Remember, our enemies are retarded. Stop giving them so much credit. The Lord only gave them a little bit of power to work with, but that's it. It's nothing. Okay. They are not hid from my face. So there it is. The Lord and the angels know where all our enemies are. Okay, right now. Neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. Right there. Okay. Let's get verse 18. And first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double. Recompense means payback. Okay. Their iniquity and their sin double, because you're going to slavery for 1,000 years. Okay. You have to pay back. Everything that you're doing, you have to pay back twice. Double. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because they have defiled my land. That's right. Booyah. Because they have defiled my land. Right. Because this is the Lord's planet. But also, that's the Lord's land over there in Jerusalem. Okay? And you got nothing but these gutter rats living over there. Yeah. Defiling it. Okay? You got, sodomy going on over there. Okay? Alright? They're worshiping the Talmud. The Talmud. Stuff like that. Alright? So they're completely defiling our land. And you can only imagine what else they do. Okay, these tiny tops are known for sleeping with children, all that. You've seen the Epstein files. Who do you think all those people are? Germans and small hats. That's Teman. That's Esau. Okay, all right. Those are top tier Edomites and leaders around the world. And what are they doing? Are they known for being true royalty and real men of they're real noble, and they walk with their integrity and dignity? Nah, man. They're a bunch of pedophiles and Satanists on the real, See, but now, remember, the Lord's exposing it. This is why we don't have to waste our time and say, please believe us, we don't really care about your opinion, because this, whether you believe or not, doesn't change the fact that these wicked individuals are doing this stuff. See? So it ain't just, oh, well, we don't care, what you guys think about us because, we think, we're all that. It's just that the Lord's word is going to be true. Okay? It is true. Okay? The Bible reigns supreme, and prophecy is undefeated. So that's why, So this is, let's continue. Neither is their iniquity hid from my eyes. Okay? All right? So, that's very heavy right there, the 17th verse. All right, Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 18. And first, I will recompense their iniquity. I will recompense their iniquity. That means sin. Recompense means payback. Iniquity means sin. Because they're messing up. They're messing up. Remember, they have to pay for that tab. Just let them add it up. Just let them add it up. Esau wants to talk trash and all that. Let him talk trash. He ain't going nowhere. He's going to slavery. Let him add it up. Let him add it up. It's like when you have top-notch security, and someone's stealing and you're just watching them. Just watch them. You don't even chase them. Okay, don't even worry about it. The Lord and the angels are watching them. Okay, they're not going anywhere. Everything is being recorded out here. And it's beyond what a camera can do. It is beyond what you mere mortals can even imagine. How much the Lord and the angels are watching everybody out here. Oh yeah. Okay. And first, okay, I will recompense their iniquity double. That's another good point. So that shows that the Lord is not all love. He's coming back to beat somebody's ass. Okay, excuse my Italian. He's coming to put down the smackdown on somebody, because and first I will recompense their iniquity. That means pay back. Okay, because when you have a tab, you have to pay it back, right? So this is another scripture right here that shows you Esau, you have to pay for your tab. So everything that you're doing, you got to pay for it. There's a consequence to it. See? Yeah, there's a lot right here being said. All right, and first I will recompense. So the Lord is saying, I'm coming. I'm coming for them. So God, Yahweh, He's not all love. So that's another golden token right there. That's a little golden nugget right there. That shows you right there, because the Lord's like, oh, the Lord's not saying, oh, it's okay, I forgave him for that, No, the Lord's saying you gotta pay for that double, baby. The Lord's not only saying, hey, you gotta pay for your tab. The Lord's saying, I'm charging interest. You gotta pay double. Yeah. Yep. Still think Yahweh's all love? Okay. It's just to show you out there by you applying the scriptures and breaking down the scriptures correctly that these religions and false prophets are not telling you the truth. See? And their sin double. There it is. Because they have defiled my land. Those gutter rats are out there in our land right now doing all kinds of, all kinds of stuff. They're misbehaving. Okay? You already know. They have filled my inheritance with their carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. Yeah, because they're a walking abomination. Because they're full of pride too, Pride is an abomination before the Lord. Okay? Pride goes before destruction. The Lord hates pride. You gotta put that down. Whoa. Okay, so now let's go to Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6 verse 14 on down, okay? Alright, so at the same time that Yahweh Shai comes with the angels, the ICBMs are going to go off. Revelation chapter 6 verse 14. Okay, let's get it, And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together. So that's called a mushroom cloud. Okay. All right. When after the atomic bomb, all right, blows up, it creates something called a mushroom cloud. So that's what's gonna happen. All right, because remember, the Lord's not just coming with the angels and great judgment to execute judgment, but he's also gonna ignite. He's gonna shoot off those his missiles, because they're the Lord's missiles. All right, and the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, because the Lord's gonna rock the earth to and fro. Imagine all these ICBMs going off at the same time. Verse 15, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Okay? Let's break this down. Listen up. Revelation chapter 16, verse 15. If you don't know this scripture, write this down. Okay? Or take a screenshot. Alright? There's a lot here. Okay? And the kings, check it out. Alright? Because this is how we know that they're afraid. Okay, our enemies are afraid. Our enemies are afraid. Remember. Okay, you know, and the kings of the earth, and the great men. So all the kings mean the leaders. Okay. What do you got? Give me a second. The leaders and presidents around the world. Okay. All right, and the kings of the earth. So the rulers, you know, around the world, and the great men, and the rich men. Okay. Celebrities, you know, elites. All right, and the chief captains. Okay. All right. You know, people like, you know, top, you know, military forces. You know, check it out, because they're scared too. You know, especially them, because your top military out there, they see the spaceships. Okay, and also when you're in military, you understand war. Okay, because you understand that war is not pretty. So, you know, top generals out there, they're frightened because they already know, because they already shot missiles and stuff at the chariots of Israel. Okay, at the Lord's ships, and they have no effect. Okay, they can't even phase them. So they know once it's time for war. I mean, they may be mad, you know, but what can they do? Okay, because war brings reality. Remember that. Imagine that, you trying to fight a force so bad that you're trying to fight a force that's so powerful that you can't even phase them. Your top military, United States, shot at them in Afghanistan. Okay, when Afghanistan was when the United States military was in Afghanistan, what were they doing over there? They were taking the lithium. That's the elements that you know, you need for your batteries and stuff. Okay, because what does America always do? They're always going somewhere else, sucking them dry, you know, taking all their resources, you know. That's what they do, you know. It ain't nothing new, you know. They send in the economic hitman, okay. You know, just like America did to Venezuela, you know, go over there, take out the president. All right, now that's not their oil, but now they're like, oh, we're gonna sell it. That ain't your oil, you know. But that's what they do. See. That's the point. That is something that happened right there, you know. Yeah, it's facts right there, you know. You know, and all you Edomites that talk about Trump and all that, and say that was like one of the most powerful military moves. Okay, you guys are all a bunch of cherries. All right, straight up. Okay, you prepare for slavery, and Yahweh Shai is going to destroy you in 1 hour. Okay, you guys are a bunch of cherries. You guys are a bunch of cherries. You know, you guys try to act like, you know, you ain't nothing, Esau. You know, sit your red ass down, you raspberry. You know, fact, baby. You know, or when you guys are on TV and stuff, say, oh, we did this and we did that. Okay, you guys are a bunch of sissies and cherries. Straight up. You know? And the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and the rocks of the mountains. See? So hid themselves because they're hiding. Okay, they're not just going under there because it's cool. Okay, they're hid themselves. Remember, all the people above, top generals, leaders, presidents, okay, international bankers. All right, hid themselves. Key point: hid themselves in the dens and in the holes, and in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. Okay, all right. So once again, okay, even John the Revelator is saying. So not only is the Lord telling us through His prophet Jeremiah, also it's in the book of Amos as well. You can get that in the 9th chapter. In the 9th chapter, okay. But I'm going to end it in verse 17. Okay, but if you guys go to Amos chapter 9, I believe it's like around the 3rd verse, around there, 3rd or 4th verse. It says that, you know, our enemies are going to hide themselves in Carmel and all that. That means the mountains. Okay, all right, yeah, all right. Amos the 9th chapter. goes into that as well, because the Lord's exposing you. Because through his prophet Jeremiah, Amos, and now right here, the book of Revelation, John the Revelator, okay, because they're hiding in the rocks. That means they're just digging a hole in the ground and, all right, we're going to hide right here. That's it. Because what does that mean? That, number one, that they're scared, okay? Oh, because what can we learn from this? Remember, it's not just, the so-called white man, nah. Hey, remember, class in session, you gotta learn, okay? But what's to learn from this? Our enemies are scared, so on your feet, soldiers. Number two, they cannot leave the planet. They can't go to Mars and all that. They say, we go to Mars and all that. All right. Remember, if you were able, let's say this was your kingdom, for instance. Okay. Hey. All right. Let's say this is your kingdom. Okay. Let's say this is your kingdom. All right. And you had an outside force that was so strong, you try to shoot it and it has no effect. And you know that they were about to hunt you and your family down, okay, and take everything that you got, What would you rather do? Would you rather dig a hole? Or option A or option B? Option A, dig a hole in the ground and just, and just see what happens, and just hope for the best. Or option B, what would you do? Option B, leave the planet, if you were able. What would you do? Just dig a hole and say, fuck it, I excuse my Italian, I'm just going to hide right here. Or if you were able, just get out of Dodge, get out of there, wouldn't you leave the planet? What would you do? Okay, it's like Michael Myers, okay? Let's say if Michael Myers was chasing you in the house, right? Okay, what would you do? Hide in the basement? All right, where it's only a matter of time before he can get down there? Or if you're able, just get out of the house and go to a whole nother neighborhood. Just get out of there, flee. What would you do? If you're, what would you do in that situation? All right, most people would leave, leave the planet, right? Just get the heck out of Dodge, right? Like, hey, I'm getting the heck out of here, if you're able. So that's another evident token that our enemies, they can't leave the planet. Remember, don't worry about Russia, China, America, because they're the main ones lying, saying that, oh yeah, we can go to other planets. They can't. But that shows because they're lying. Because wouldn't they go? Exactly. Because the Lord would tell us that, all right, we got to go to other planets to go find them. No. So they're in the holes in the rocks. They're in the ground. Remember that. Okay. Verse 16. Okay, here we go. Revelation chapter 6, verse 16. And said to the mountains and rocks. All right, so our enemies, once they see the 144,000, okay, and the angels and Yahushai, all right, hunting down the wicked up here. Remember, because the Lord's going to arrive in the Middle East first. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us. Okay? Stop right there. Hold up. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us. Because our Lord, okay, remember, he's the King of Terrors, baby. Okay? That is, you don't receive that title, you don't receive that title for no reason. Okay? And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. See? And hide us, because they're hiding. Why? Because they're scared. Brothers and sisters. Alright? They're scared because they're scared. Hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. Because when Yahushua gets here, he's going to bring it. He's going to bring it. Okay? For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Because the great day of his wrath, meaning what? It's in telling that the Lord is very angry, very upset. Okay, so it's not just remember, because we're teachers. Okay, remember, we're professors, right? So we got to show some scholarship about ourselves. Because remember, it's not just about knocking people down and, oh yeah, that person's retarded and you don't know. No, we show the people, okay, show the elect, okay, where they're going off, okay, and this is where we also we'll tell the heathens a little bit, but there's no use going back and forth. There's no use of debating, because it goes nowhere. This is why the apostles tell us that, because if somebody can't get it, we're moving on. Yeah, we may tell you a little bit, exercise the spirit sometimes, but it doesn't go nowhere. We'll tell you a little bit, because if you don't believe, we'll tell you what we have a precept for you. We're not gonna go back and forth with you all day, because we understand that you don't believe, first and foremost. Okay, so if you don't believe, then why are you gonna try to convince somebody who don't believe? They don't believe. You're not gonna convince them. Okay, all right. All right. All right. Okay, because you're not going to convince them. So you don't want to go. You don't want to go back and forth every day. You know. So out there. You don't want to go back and forth because you're going to waste your time. All right. Sometimes the spirit will, reveal like, okay, just tell them something and that's it, and be done with it, and let that be that. Let that be the end of it. That's it. Because it doesn't go nowhere, So that right there shows you, because it's about showing the elect, okay? It's about teaching where people where they err. Okay, this is why this is written. You err not knowing the scriptures, because this is where you're making your mistake. Okay, you err not knowing the scriptures because people are just doing what they feel is right. People believe in their doctrine because their grandma or their mom or dad raised them to be that way. So they're just gonna follow their family tradition. You get it? Okay. Remember, I'm not knocking down grandma. I'm not knocking down them, and saying like, oh, but you're not going according to scriptures. Okay. All right. What we're telling you is that they're not bringing out 100% facts. Okay. All right. Remember, because our people were brainwashed. Okay. Our people were beaten down. All right. Remember, there's something called the Slave Bible. Remember, when the conquistadors came over here, Christopher Colon, aka Christopher Columbus, when they came over here, remember, remember what they did to our brothers and sisters, the so-called Native American Indians. They had something called beat the Indian out of them. All right, because they forced us. If we were caught reading the Bible, or following our traditions, they would kill us. So our people were forced to follow the ways of the heathens and the Edomites. Get it? Okay. All right. So this is why grandma and grandpa, they don't know the truth. They may know that they're Israelite, but this is why they still follow Jesus Christ. Because our people were lied to. Remember that. Okay, remember, Abba Bivens wasn't on the scene till 1969. Okay, that's John the Baptist right there. All right. Yep, Elijah. So, and he's the forerunner for Yahushua. Remember that. So, remember that. Okay. So, remember that. But not saying it's impossible. Okay, because there may be, because we do have people in the truth out there that are over their 50s, and they do have grandchildren. All right, so that don't mean just because you're a grandma or grandpa, you don't make it, that you're not gonna make it. Stop being simple out there, Jay. Okay, but it's just showing you that we're not just talking down on you because, because they're old and whatever. No, okay, because they're older, it's just showing you why. Okay, because a lot of our people, they believe in what they believe. These are facts. Okay, you know, the reason why a lot of people believe in, Catholic and Christian is because that's the way they were raised. That's the way they were brought up. Okay, yeah, all right, oh, not saying that they're not good parents and they're not responsible. I'm not saying that, but just pointing out why our people they believe in what they believe is because they follow their family tradition. A lot of them. That's just the way they were raised. That's the way they were brought up, and they're just gonna keep on following grandma and grandpa what they told them was right. See that? But remember, not knocking them down, but our people don't have the truth. Okay, in the older generation. All right, remember, because our people were lied to, and now the world is seeing it for what it is. So that's why, okay? Because it's just showing you where you're making your error. Because yes, grandma and grandpa can be a very loving grandma and grandpa, there for their grandchildren, responsible, all that, hard workers, okay? But the thing is, they don't have the 100% truth because they're just following the traditions of their family. But remember, our people, we've been in captivity for a very long time. Okay? Alright? Verse 17. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? You gotta imagine that, okay? The top of the 16th chapter. Revelation chapter 6, verse 16. And said to the mountains and rocks, and said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us. Okay, you gotta imagine how painful is that. Okay, for our enemies to literally be in big old mountains, underground retreats, and tell the rocks, hey, fall on us, crush us. So why would they want the rocks to crush them? Okay. Alright, why would they want the rocks to crush them? Because the way, you guys ever seen Mortal Kombat? Okay, remember how they do fatalities? Like Sub-Zero, Scorpion, stuff like that, Raiden? The 144,000 are gonna have powers like that, like Thor, Thanos, Black Adam, oh yeah, Hancock, Brightburn. So once our enemies see how people are gonna get put down like that, they're gonna be mightily afraid. So with that, that's it on today's lesson. Stay prayed up on your feet, soldier. Shalom.